Hey everyone, Eric Speck here, Sport Director at RPHLA. Today I'm coming at you to talk about how being a pharmacist is an awesome job. And why do I want to talk about this? I feel like so much lately on social media, I hear this big exodus from pharmacy. People are bad talking pharmacy. They are wanting to get into a different profession or do something different, maybe pharmacy related. Anyways, I want to talk about that a bit, and I'm going to do that right after this. All right. So yes, being a pharmacist is an awesome job. And that might be a little strange coming from me since I no longer work as a pharmacist, but I have. And so I think I have the right to be able to make that statement. Also, I might be a little biased. A lot of you may not know that I'm a third generation pharmacist. I'm actually the fifth to graduate from pharmacy school in my family. So I was pretty much brainwashed, and I grew up around pharmacy, ever since I was an infant. Literally, when I was 5 years old, I remember being in elementary school. I used to put on a small smock, and I used to go into the pharmacy with my dad. I'd help him stock the shelves, and I was a stock boy. I was cleaning, then I was answering phones and using the cash register. And I should mention, my family owned 3 independent pharmacies growing up, so I had the ability to do that pretty easily. And I grew up loving pharmacy. Everything about it was pretty great. My family loved pharmacy. My dad enjoyed going to work every day. He actually worked 6 days a week for most of my childhood, and really enjoyed everything about pharmacy, right? And so what are these great things I'm talking about? For me, the best one was patient care. I think that's why a lot of us get into pharmacy. We get to help people who are in need. You have an elderly lady come in with a complaint. She doesn't understand her medications. You're able to build that relationship with her. You talk about her medications, her elements, and you're able to provide that assistance. And you see the immediate benefit provided to them. You see them get a smile on their face. They give you some acknowledgement and recognition that you helped them. And to me, that's huge. There's really nothing more fulfilling when it comes to what job I'm doing than to get that kind of recognition and response from, a patient. You can get it in other job settings where you're not a pharmacist, from a client or from a customer. But I feel like it's really not on the same level as with a patient, because most likely a client or a customer isn't going to need you as bad as that patient needs you as a pharmacist. So that's probably the number one greatest thing about being a pharmacist, is you get to help people, like truly, truly help people. And it's not just a one-time thing. It's the help you provide them is going to last, hopefully a very, very long time, years into their life, by the difference that you made in their patient care on that day. Some of the other great things about it, it's not that hard of a job in many ways. In some ways it is, yes. In many ways it's not. For example, my grandfather works as a pharmacist since he was about 85 years old. How many professions can you have where you can work until you're 85 years old? Not a lot, right? It's not a very physically demanding job being a pharmacist. It's like, yeah, you have to stand all day. At least most pharmacists do, but that's not too difficult. If it's too bad, grab a stool or something. But the physical demand isn't that hard. It's a job that you can do until you're very, very old. I'm sure my grandfather would have kept practicing pharmacy beyond 85, except for he started having a decline in his cognitive abilities, and he was thinking Mrs. Smith was Mrs. Jones and about to give out the wrong medication. So we eventually had to convince him to retire from pharmacy, but it was very hard. And another thing I like about pharmacy, it's a predictable environment, right? You go to work basically the same hours every day. If you're working a chain pharmacy, you might work the morning shift and then the evening shift. Some have a night shift, but generally it's very regular hours, and you know what to expect doing what you're going to be doing all day. Since I've left pharmacy, I've had a few jobs. I was a logistics manager working supply chain for a digital health company. I was a project manager for a behavioral health company. I'm currently a chief program officer for a tech company. And there are so many different things that come up in each of those jobs where you're constantly shifting, like your knowledge, your skills, what you think you may be doing that day. You may end up doing something completely different later that day that you hadn't expected because something comes up. I mean, I don't ever remember that happening as a pharmacist. I'd go in the morning, open up the store, start working as a pharmacist. Patients start coming in, dispensing medications, doing consultations, taking in new prescriptions from physicians' offices. And that was pretty much how the day went. And I absolutely love that, the predictability. And I don't know, I'm sure everybody's different, but for me, I absolutely love that about pharmacy. Going into work now, like I don't necessarily know what's going to expect is going to happen. I have some stuff on my to-do list or on my calendar, and then something else comes up and I'm putting that off. It's like, I'm not the kind of guy who likes that. I like the predictability. Another thing about being a pharmacist that's great is when you're the pharmacist working in the pharmacy, you're the one in charge, right? It's like, you're the man, right? You got your clerks, your pharmacy technicians, maybe some other staff. But ultimately, you're the one in charge. You're the one who's responsible for all activities that go on in that pharmacy. Even when prescribers, physician's office are calling you, they can call on a prescription. And not all pharmacists do this. I would, if I had a question about it, if I didn't think it was right, I'd push back. Are you sure you want to prescribe that for Mrs. Jones? Do you know her age? Is this contraindicated in people over this age? Whatever it may be. And then they appreciate that, right? That's how it should work, because we're the medication experts. We have that collaboration. And again, you're the pharmacist, like you're in charge of those prescription orders that are coming in. And in this case, you're directing physicians. And I absolutely love that. I mean, who doesn't love being the boss? Who doesn't love being in charge? And even if you're not in a management position as a pharmacist, let's just say you're a staff pharmacist, maybe a new staff pharmacist. Well, if you're the only pharmacist working there, like you are the boss, you're the CEO of that pharmacy for that period of time. And that's pretty freaking awesome. So I mentioned on social media, I'm seeing, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the people I follow on social media, but I'm having this feeling where pharmacy is kind of getting, I'm going to say, a bad rap, right? There's all this complaints, we're understaffed, we're overworked, pharmacy sucks, it's a bad profession, it's going downhill, all these things. And I cringe when I see them. One of the reasons is because I love pharmacy. I was brainwashed growing up to be a pharmacist. Not exactly, I exaggerate on that. But I loved pharmacy so much. So when I see these things, first, it's just like, oh, that kind of hurts. Secondly, it's like, well, is that true? How true is that? And I don't necessarily agree with what's being said about pharmacy. It's like somebody's perspective about it. And, if they're complaining about the work is too hard, they're understaffed, that never bothered me. I was working at a chain pharmacy. I was the only pharmacist. I was the only person in the pharmacy. I was the pharmacist. I was the tech. I was the clerk, running around like crazy. I love that. Maybe I was young. I was new at pharmacy. Would I have been like that forever? Maybe not. But for the time being, it's like when I'm busy like that, just kicking butt, I absolutely loved it. So when I see people, again, maybe not the best words, but bashing pharmacy, I don't think that's necessarily right, or at least be more careful about how you do it. And one of the concerns I have about this is there are a lot of people who are working traditional pharmacist roles who are seeing this content that's being posted on social media. And what I'm afraid is going to happen is they're going to start thinking like, is my job really that bad? I didn't think it was so bad. I just thought it was a job. But all these people are saying, get out of pharmacy, find your calling, do something different. And I don't want that pharmacist who's content and happy with his job to now not be content and is happy with his job because what is going on social media and kind of this movement that I'm seeing. And so if you're watching this and you're one of those pharmacists who is always enjoyed being a pharmacist, maybe you work at a chain pharmacy, maybe you work at a hospital, and you never thought there was anything wrong with it. Now people are telling you, well, there's something wrong with it. Don't listen to them. There's nothing wrong with pharmacy in general. There are particular people who may not like something about their previous pharmacy role, their current pharmacy role, like that's fine. That's their thing. But to say that in general, people shouldn't have a traditional pharmacist job, should get into something else, find something better. I bet you for most pharmacists working out there, there's probably not something better, right? They want to be a pharmacist for years and years and years. They work their butt off through years and years of school, probably 8 years of college, spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. And they wouldn't do it if they didn't really like it, if they didn't really want to do it, if they didn't love it. Okay, so now you take that person who loved it, spent all that time and all that money, and now you get into their head saying, maybe something's wrong with me, and I am liking pharmacy, but I shouldn't, because all these people are getting out. Are all these people really getting out of pharmacy? I don't know. I feel like more than ever, I'm seeing that. It wasn't like that 10 or 20 years ago. I don't think any of these conversations are really going on. But in the last year or two, I've seen a lot of these conversations going on. And again, this message is mainly to that pharmacist who's working that traditional role and is happy there. Freaking great. Being a pharmacist is an awesome job. There are not too many jobs that are better than being a pharmacist. Some of the reasons that I described earlier. And if you're happy and content doing what you're doing, do it for the freaking rest of your life and be happy. And don't let other people influence you or get into your head about the profession of pharmacy. At the same time, if you find something different, you're working as a pharmacist, then maybe you're gradually building something on the side, or somehow you fall into a niche and you start doing something that's not traditional pharmacy and you build a business out of it. And before you know it, you're not practicing pharmacy. Maybe you're not even using your license anymore, but it becomes natural. It's just the way that's your career evolved. Then, okay, great. You found something better for you than your previous pharmacy job. What I don't want to happen are these people who hear about these other people doing these great things that are great to them, maybe not great in general. So now they're thinking about leaving their job where they're happy and content with to go take a risk doing something else. And again, I said risk. It may not be successful, from a monetary perspective. Pharmacists, you can make a good living. You make a comfortable living, right? Do you have to put in the work and do it? Well, absolutely. But that's just like with anything else. If you're not smart about building up a side hustle, doing something different, you just jump into it. Well, it may not work out. You may be right back into your previous role. So be really careful about that. So thanks for listening to me today. I think that's about all I have. And again, it was kind of this last minute thought, just something I wanted to say about what I've been seeing on social media. But a word of caution, if you will, out there to any pharmacists who really like their job. Freaking great. And lastly, I'll say, it wasn't my choice to no longer be in pharmacy. All right. If you know my story, it was a year-long battle with the board of pharmacy. And ultimately, I just said, I don't want to keep battling the board. Take my license. I'm going to go find something different. But out of all the jobs that I've had, I'll admit my current one's pretty badass. And I'm doing a couple of things on the side. But there are times now where I'm just like, man, I just wish I can go back and help those patients and work in those pharmacies and have the conversations with my staff, with my patients, with the physicians' offices, get back into that environment. And if you're young and you went straight to pharmacy school and being a pharmacist, maybe the really only real job you had, the only career you have, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And if you're in pharmacy, you're in pretty freaking lush green grass. And so enjoy it as much as you can. And have that perspective. Even if you're not feeling like you like pharmacy anymore, you're getting burned out, it's getting old, don't be thinking that there's so much better stuff out there. I mean, it's a job just like any other job. And the majority of people are going to kind of have those feelings and those thoughts, they're not super thrilled about their job. Get super thrilled about your job. Have that change of perspective, that mind shift, in order to be able to go to work excited each day. There are some people who find something more fulfilling, something better than their traditional pharmacy role. And like I said before, that's great, but that's not always the case. That's not always the best route. And sometimes instead of doing something completely different than what you're doing, just try thinking about it a little bit different and see if that helps. All right, everyone, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. You can find me at RPH Ally Peer Support Channel if you have any questions. I'll talk to you guys soon.